So we'll start introductions.
Forever. Yes.
As Cindy had said, we work for the League for the Blind and Disabled. It's now the League, but most people know the League for the Blind and Disabled. We service any age, any disability, from 0 to 112, however long somebody's gonna live. We have several different departments within the League, which we'll get into that here in a minute. But I myself, my name is Jackie Wallace, and I started working at the League in actually 2017, so that's wrong, because I was just told that was wrong. So
I'm just throwing that out there. So.
I have an associate's degree in human services and a bachelor's degree in psychology with an emphasis on youth development and brain and behavior. I am a youth services coordinator, and I'm currently working on my master's degree in orientation and mobility, which is white cane training for blind and low vision at Western Michigan University. And I'm a proud mom of a child with a disability. So that's what led me to this course of work. And fun fact, after Mariah introduces herself.
So I'm Mariah Basie. I have been with the League since 2022, so not just two years now. Me and Jackie have the exact same education because we actually went to school at the exact same time. The only difference is my emphasis for my bachelor's is in substance abuse and family relationships. So that's literally the only difference. When I came and applied at the League, that's when we're like, oh, we went to school together.
Hey, we know each other.
Yeah. So.
And now we're going back to school for our master's degrees together. I've talked her into it. So
Yeah.
we both run our youth services department, which we see roughly around 200 kids, and work with them and their families, range of disabilities and a range of ages. So, and demographics. We have them all the way far north Indiana, because we service 11 counties, and all the way far south down to Jay County. Obviously, our biggest school system is Fort Wayne Community Schools, because they're actually even larger than Indianapolis Community Schools right now. So,
and we go up to age 24. That's our transition age by the state. Once they hit 24, they still need services. They go to the adult side. So.
We've been asked by Big Brothers Big Sisters in a collaboration to do some disability training, because a lot of y'all that work with kids will work with kids that have some of these disabilities, and it's kind of just to make everyone aware and to give you some tips and pointers on what to do in certain situations. This tells you a little bit about the League. The League, like I said, formerly the League for the Blind and Disabled, it started actually in 1949 when Helen Keller came to Fort Wayne. She saw a need to raise money for the blind in our community. There was a huge blind deaf community in the Fort Wayne, Allen County area. And so she, in 1981, we were the first of 10 organizations in Indiana to become designated as a center for independent living. And then we expanded our services availability to include all people with disabilities in Northeast Indiana, and that's the 11 counties that I was talking about. This is all the different areas of the League. So the biggest ones are, youth services is what our ILS department, and we're part of the ILS department, which is the Independent Living Services. Have you ever done these things?
Have you tried to talk about disability and found yourself flustered with what words to use?
Have you ever shushed your kids for asking, what's wrong with that person in the wheelchair?
Have you shared a news story about a disabled person on social media because you felt warm and fuzzy after reading it?
Have you ever compared yourself with a person with a disability to make yourself feel better about your own life?
If you have, don't worry, no judgment. We're gonna go over what to do in different situations to make everyone a little bit more comfortable.
So, some definitions. Disability is a physical, mental, cognitive, or developmental condition that impairs, interferes with, or limits a person's ability to engage in certain tasks or actions or participate in typical daily activities or interactions. And 1 in 4 U.S. adults have a disability.
So examples, you can read them for yourself. Maybe you can't because I know it's a little smaller, but some that might surprise people is anxiety, depression, substance abuse, mental illness, asthma, diabetes, dyslexia, ADHD, I think I read every other one. Cancer.
Cancer.
That one sometimes surprises people.
And these are all federal guidelines. So these fall under federal guidelines as, aging is also now considered disability. As we get older, and you no longer are able to, you have to use a walker to walk, or you're no longer able to drive. That's considered a disability. So that's a part of normal life, but it's still considered a disability. So key terms to remember: invisible disabilities. Those are disabilities that are not always obvious to the onlooker, but can sometimes or always limit people's daily activities. They range from mild challenges to severe limitations and vary from person to person. Pain, fatigue, dizziness, brain injuries, learning disabilities, mental health, which is a big one, mental health disorders, and even some physical disabilities such as hearing and visual impairments. Those aren't always seen.
Person first language. You want to put the person before the disability typically. So instead of saying someone's autistic, it's a person with autism. Trying to think about that. Instead of saying the blind, it's a person who's blind or visually impaired. The only time that doesn't really the only difference would be for deaf, because deaf is considered a culture. You can say deaf. You don't have to say a person who's deaf. So, also, if someone corrects you and say, "Hey, I know you said like a person with autism, but I prefer to be called autistic," go ahead and respect that person, and if they correct you, use what they would like to be used.
Disability etiquette. What is disability etiquette? Disability etiquette helps bridge the gap by providing best practice recommendations for building relationships with people with disabilities.
This is important because it creates a level of respect and inclusion for all.
Disability etiquette tips. Talk about abilities instead of limitations. Unless it's truly relevant, don't even refer to a person's disability. So if you're describing someone and you say, "Oh, that's so-and-so in the wheelchair," well, unless that's relevant, like they need to know he's in a wheelchair because they need to know if wherever you're going is accessible, then unless it's relevant to whatever you're doing, don't describe that. Describe him as a person. That's a gentleman with brown hair, wearing blue pants, because you're adding, you're pointing out the fact that that person has a disability.
Don't use words that imply a person with a disability is afflicted with or suffers from their disability. Also, referring to them as special or exceptional can be damaging as well. I know a lot of people who, especially in the autism community with the differently abled, they grew up with that, and it kind of makes them feel less than when they hear those things. So just kind of being mindful and seeing if that does make them uncomfortable not to use that type of terminology around them.
Another big one is don't talk about fixing or making a person feel better. They might feel just fine, just like a red-haired person might like how her red hair makes her different.
When you're talking with someone who is hard of hearing, it's okay to tap the person on the shoulder or wave your hand to get his or her attention. Obviously, be respectful with it. Don't be very obnoxious or, be respectful with it. That's totally fine to do.
Sometimes you might be talking to someone who uses an interpreter, a translator, or a personal assistant. When you're talking to that person, you look at the person that has the disability, not the interpreter or the assistant, because you're addressing the person and not the person interpreting for them.
We have one of the Inclusion Institute's leader, director. I've gone out with him in public a couple times, and he uses a wheelchair for mobility. And a lot of times they assume that I'm his personal care attendant when we're just out at a hockey game or something like that. And I can't tell you how many people talk to me like, "Oh, we're so glad you brought him out today." And I'm like, it's his car. He paid for, you know what I mean? So
he brought me out.
Right. Don't assume that, or talk to the person that's there if they are providing the help.
Here's the big one. When you meet somebody that's visually impaired, always identify yourself and others that may be with you. We bring this up and people kind of look at us like that's kind of obvious, but really it isn't. It really isn't. We work with people in our office that are legally blind, and I cannot tell you how many times you'll walk in, people will walk into their office and not even say who they are, that they walked into the office, and all of a sudden they'll be saying something off the cuff and you're going, like stop.
Just makes it
There's other
awkward
people
for
in here.
everyone.
Yeah, it just makes it really awkward. So if you are aware, sometimes you're not aware that the person is, visually impaired. Sometimes it is hard to decipher that, and they will a lot of times ask you, who am I speaking with? Do you have somebody with you? So
Don't assume a person with a disability can't do things. They may use assistive devices or technology to talk, walk, or even drive a car. A lot of wheelchair users do drive. People who are deaf or hard of hearing are allowed to drive. And even some people who are legally blind, now there's new assistive technology, monocular, is that what it's called?
monocular
Monocular?
lenses, yeah.
That allows them to drive, so.
If you want to help someone with a disability, ask them first before helping. This is a huge one for me because I'm a mom first. And I am the mom that always ties the shoes and gets the stuff and grabs the coats and buttons and so that's very hard, especially my old partner used a wheelchair for mobility as well, and it was very hard when we were out places to not grab his stuff or put his stuff up on the counter to be paid for. And it's kind of demeaning, and he pulled me aside and he said, like, stop, because I'm a grown man, I can do that by myself, and if I can't, I'll ask you, and which is great. And don't get angry if they say no, because that might be part of their daily goal is to complete that task, pump their own gas or buy their own groceries. So that's a huge accomplishment for a lot of people that have mobility issues.
If you're talking to someone with a speech disability, give the person extra time to talk and try not to rush them. Be patient and don't speak to the person. Pretty self-explanatory.
Go ahead.
If you're with someone who uses a guide dog or some other kind of service animal, do not pet or talk to the animal. These animals are working and shouldn't be distracted. Quick question for everyone. Do you know what happens if a guide dog comes up to you without an owner?
There's some kind of problem. The owner's in trouble.
Yep.
Yeah, so follow the dog. The dog's trained to lead you back to that person, and then once you're there, you can see if they have some type of bracelet on that tells. Sometimes on the dogs, what's it
Body.
called?
Yeah,
There's
it's their harness.
The harness. Thank you. Not think of the word. There might be instructions of what to do, or if you can't find it, you can always call 911. So.
Don't touch a person's body or equipment that the person uses, such as their wheelchair, cane, or walker. That is pretty self-explanatory, but a lot of times people will do it when you're out somewhere and you're, I was guilty of it. I used to lean on Kevin's wheelchair all the time, and he would put it in gear just so I would trip up, just to remind me not to lean on his wheelchair. So that's a part of their body. Like, nobody would walk up to me and grab my glasses. It's the same thing. So
Use person first language unless told otherwise by the person.
the most important thing is be yourself. People with disabilities are just like people without disabilities. They also want to do their best, be their best, have fun, live productive lives, be around people, their peers in their own community. Don't worry about using your ordinary phrases such as "see you later" to a blind person, or got to be some running to do to somebody that can't walk, because that's okay. I mean, everybody does that.
It's way more awkward to try to correct yourself after the fact, because I do that a lot at work. I don't think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, then we have a short video that we're gonna let you guys watch. I think it's like 3 to 4 minutes long, so. The audio's up.
Good morning, Mom.
You guys hear that okay?
Morning there. Big man. Morning, guys! There's no need to be awkward. Poor Bob. Like so many of us, he just doesn't know how to interact with people with disabilities.
It's pretty easy, really. People with disabilities are people first.
We need the same things that every person needs, like respect.
Good morning, everyone.
Attention!
Okay. Maybe we need to be more specific.
The easiest way to show respect is to focus on the person Not the disability. It's okay. You'll get the hang of it.
One easy way to focus on the person is to watch the person signing and not their interpreter.
Or their companion.
It's really cool that you'd like to help, but do us both a favor and please ask me first. What you think might be helping?
I got you.
Wait, ah! Oh no, might actually not.
If you'd like to offer me help, let me hold on to your elbow. Don't take mine.
Hey, would you like to say mom?
Sure.
Assistive devices help us to live our lives. They're really important and really personal.
Grabbing them always makes it weird for everyone.
Please only touch our devices and service animals if we've given you permission. And don't take it personally if I ask you not to. Remember that my service animal helps me all the time. Neither of us would like it if we were separated.
Remember, we make our own decisions. We sign documents, vote, volunteer, work, and pay taxes.
We get married.
So don't delusion me just because I'm a great smile.
Just because I'm blind does not mean I'm deaf.
Just because I'm deaf doesn't mean I'm blind.
And just because I use a wheelchair doesn't mean that I can't sweep you off your feet.
So take a deep breath, relax. We don't fight.
Unless we're really hungry.
Hello there, lady. How are you?
Hello. And if you're not sure what to do, just ask.
Hi, would you still like to see a menu?
No thanks, but can you please read it to me?
Sure, definitely.
Just treat us the way you'd want to be treated, and we'll all be okay.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Alice.
Right.
Awkward no more. Nice job, Bob. Go forth and be human. There's no need to be awkward.
Okay, let me get the treats out. It's gonna be-
So now we have a little game we're gonna play. It's red light, green light. Up on the screen, you're gonna see some words pop up and you're gonna try to guess whether it's okay to use it with caution, or don't use it at all. And this is gonna go into a little bit of disability etiquette. And we have Candy.
To motivate you to answer.
To motivate. We got more motivation out of the kids with the candy, I'm sorry.
Okay, first up, crippled. Red, yellow, green.
Red.
You're saying red.
Good job.
Are we all good at catching?
Yeah. What was the three again? I'm sorry.
It's red, yellow, or green. So
red means never okay to say. Yellow means
Oh, are you
maybe in
crippled?
some situations.
crippled. The word is crippled.
Yeah.
Next one, handicap.
Was it you? Yes, okay.
So, a little backstory on the word handicap. Does anybody know where that comes from? The origin of the word handicap. So back after World War I, men came back from service wounded from the war. And there wasn't a VA, a Veterans of America back then. So there was really very little support for men coming back wounded from war. And so they would take their caps and they would sit on the side of the road and beg for money and food. And that's where handicapped came from. The word handicapped came from the wounded warriors from World War I begging for help and assistance back then. So, and then it just has kind of over the years, There still is handicap parking, but we are working with.
Does anyone know the correct term now? It's not handicap parking anymore.
Oh.
Does anyone know the correct?
It's called accessible parking.
And you'll see that around town. They're switching.
Accessible living, accessible housing, accessible doorways. And they are changing the legislation so that they don't use the word handicap so openly anymore. Because it really does have a negative stigma.
Blind or visually impaired?
Visually impaired.
Is it okay to use?
Sometimes or always?
It's always better.
Good job.
Good job.
Wheelchair bound.
That's me. Well, what is it then?
Oh,
Is it-
Caution?
Right, yeah.
I'm just saying.
So instead of wheelchair bound, you would want to say wheelchair user or uses a wheelchair. Nobody's bound to their wheelchair, just like I'm not bound to my desk at work. I can leave my desk. Most people can get out of their wheelchair with assistance.
Intellectual disability.
Differently able.
Is it red, yellow, or green?
I don't
Is
like
it okay to say that?
I don't like it anymore.
You don't
I
like
think
it?
we're changing it. Even in the educational field, I think we're changing it.
Anyone else have any?
I would say it's two.
You say as well it's not okay to use?
It actually is. It actually is.
Well, I'd say.
Intellectual, so the old phrase for intellectual disability was mentally retarded. That's what it used to be. When you were diagnosed MR or mildly MR, that's an intellectual disability.
And then they changed it to cognitive
And
disability.
then they changed it to cognitive. So now there's two different areas, intellectual and cognitive, because they see two different aspects of your ability. The intellectual part is your learning, and the cognitive part is your cognition, your awareness of the world around you.
Typically, though, the only place that still uses cognitive disability is school systems.
Is school systems.
But they are starting to get into intellectual disability now. Suffering from. No one wants me to throw far, you know? Like, I'm so excited. And no one's.
Uh-oh, were you guys
Are you
asleep?
suffering from? I think it's okay.
You think it's okay?
No.
It's not okay.
That's not okay.
I'm not gonna start with you.
Nobody suffers from a disability.
Yeah.
Some people
Why would you suffer?
are born with a disability and live full productive lives. You know, usually when you're suffering from something, you're suffering from an illness, not the disability itself, but something secondary to the disability.
So if the cancer can be a disability, you cannot say somebody suffered from cancer?
I think it depends.
I felt like he was suffering a lot.
I think it depends on the person. I know a lot of people who've had cancer for a long time, and they do not like to say suffering from, because to them they've had it 8-10 years, and that's a long time to suffer. So they say that they're fighting it or they have it, something like that.
I think you're
That's rad.
Okay. You know what? This one's like, I'm gonna throw this.
I don't think like it. Sometimes I feel like we made.
So he's a step ahead of us. He said Don was a red light. What does everybody else think? So that's another one that actually stems from mentally retarded, is the word dumb, which we don't use. It's not a nice word. But they did. Back in the 1950s, you could have been diagnosed as dumb.
Isn't that when you also don't speak?
Yep,
Isn't that
and
what
you
it
don't
was?
speak when you're mute.
Disabled.
That's
Still
red
like
light.
differently able.
But it's either red light or green light, because you're not really technically disabled if you're high functioning autistic like me.
Yes and no.
So
Yes.
it's
It's all about how people identify, I guess.
So that's a use with caution, which you are absolutely right. So in some aspects, like the physical disabilities, they like to be.
Well, the whole point of why Luke made us do this one yellow, because he
Yes.
argued with us on a high horse, was because person with disability is supposed to be green. So some people don't like to be called disabled, some people like to be called person with disability. So
Some people like to be called differently abled. It just depends. And then retarded.
That's a zero no-no. That's a big no-no. Even I hate that word. We should get rid of it in the schools.
They should.
People are still using it.
Some people are.
Yeah, a lot of the kids aren't.
Able body.
That one's okay to use.
Yeah.
It's red.
Fine.
No,
Oh,
she
I'll
got
give you a
it.
lot of Kit Kats.
Over here, she said it was okay to use.
Who? Good job.
I'm sitting mine.
We bring these up because you're gonna hear a lot of kids using terms, and you wanna make sure that they're using the appropriate terms.
Deaf or hard of hearing?
That would, yeah. Yeah, there's no problem with that.
Anyone else?
It depends on the person though, I would
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
That is socially acceptable. Yep.
But it also depends on the person.
Very
What would
true.
they be called if they weren't deaf or hard of hearing?
I mean, just human.
Human.
Well,
Very
they still have the person should have a hard time hearing, right? So I
Right.
don't feel that so offends me.
Especially.
It's like me say that I don't have an accent because I offend. It's like, yeah, you always have it.
Special needs.
No.
So this is another one.
Is it?
Well, I love that you guys are all talking about
It's a medium, yeah. I was doing this. This is the way.
Still saying that.
Right, and that's exactly what it is. It's a use with caution because
As I
still the government, some aspects of the government, like Social Security office and the school system,
Yeah, the schools
still
use that.
use the term special needs.
Some
But
parents as well.
Some
typically
parents as
use
well. I'm a parent that does not. I don't particularly like that term, but
In the disability community, it's not socially acceptable, but in the schools and other places, people still do use it. The blind.
No. Visually
Anyone
impaired.
else?
yeah.
Visually impaired is better. Inspiration? I mean, that's not bad.
That's a good one.
That's a good one right there.
But what did we say in the beginning? We said that people with disabilities,
No.
just because they have a disability doesn't make them inspirational, right?
True.
But because you're a good drawer, that makes you inspirational.
Thank you.
See what I'm saying? Like.
Yep.
So here's some myths and misconceptions. Good job on the game, by the way.
Yes. Okay. Can you guys see this screen, or would you like? Yeah, everyone can see it. Okay. So myth: all disabilities can be seen.
I don't know why it
You
didn't.
want to do the fact?
Yeah, fact. About 90% of disabilities are hidden. So that's 20% of American adults that have hidden disabilities. And when we talk about hidden, we talk about the mental health. We talk about the ADHD, the ADD, diabetes. You can't walk up to somebody and say, "Oh, you have diabetes." That you can't see that.
Right.
Those are the things that we talk about. People with disabilities are brave, courageous, inspirational for living with their disability.
That's a myth.
That's a myth.
Facts: adjusting to disability requires adapting a lifestyle, not bravery and courage.
You almost said a no-no
I
word.
got this. We've done this enough times. I got this. So
You almost said a no-no word too.
I did. Sorry.
That's a red light right there.
Thanks.
Someone with a disability can definitely be inspirational. You have people who you might look up to and they happen to have a disability. You don't look up to them because of the disability. Kind of what we talked about earlier. People with disabilities always need help.
Many people with disabilities are independent and capable of giving help. If you would like to help someone with a disability, ask if they need help before you act. Wheelchair users are confined to their wheelchair?
That's the myth. The fact is, people who use wheelchairs are not in the wheelchair 24/7. They still, get up to go to the bathroom. They still go in bed, in the shower, so they are not in their wheelchair all day.
People with disabilities cannot lead a full and productive life. That's the myth.
The fact: people with disabilities are capable of fully participating in community life. The challenge is to focus on a person's ability, not their limitations. Researchers at Dawson College and McKay Center in Montreal remind us mechanics who are blind, nurses who are wheelchair users, teachers who are hard of hearing, painters without arms, and chemists with shaky limbs, it's all been done. Okay, myth, all people who are deaf can read lips and use ASL.
No.
Fact, that is a common assumption that is made about people with hearing loss is that they can read lips. Since the sounds that we use in forming words are not always visible on lips, lip reading is not completely reliable. In fact, people with hearing impairments often use a combination of facial expressions and body cues to understand the message that their friends are sharing with them. Myth, mental illness cannot affect me or my family.
Fact, mental illnesses are surprisingly common and they affect almost every family in America. They do not discriminate. Myth, people with disabilities are not reliable employees.
Fact, not coming into work is one of the main reasons employees worry about hiring someone with a disability. But it has been shown that people with a disability are much less likely to take a sick leave or time off, nearly by 40%. Not only that, but employees with disability also often stay with a company longer. Myth, people with disabilities can only do simple repetitive jobs or can only do light duty work.
Fact, people with disabilities have a variety of skills to offer, which differ from individual to individual, just like everyone else. All right, we have a short video of different people and disabilities you might not know they Okay, key terms to remember when working with kids with disabilities. Is it accessible? This means a place or activity can be done easily approached by the child. So for example, if you're working with a child who uses a wheelchair, making sure that they're able to get into the building. If you guys are doing an activity or if you take them to the zoo, making sure that that is going to be wheelchair friendly as well.
Does it need to be accommodated? Is the child able to do the task as is, or does it need to be modified or adjusted? Is the environment appropriate for the child, or does it need to be adjusted so that the child can be successful? So that could mean if you have a child that's on the spectrum, or if you have a child with ADHD or sensory issues, you're not going to take them into an overcrowded bowling alley. You're probably going to have a meltdown. So you want to choose a time. If the child really wants to go bowling, you're going to want to choose a time. either early in the morning or late in the afternoon when there isn't a whole big crowd going in there. So that
Or
it's-
headphones.
Or
Noise
headphones.
canceling headphones might be a good accommodation for that. How can you tell if the activity needs changed? If in doubt, ask the child or parent. Do not assume the child is unable to do something because of the disability. A good one for this would be if you do have a child with cerebral palsy, it can have weakened muscles in the hands and legs. If you think, oh, well, they can't do something physical, always ask. You don't want to leave that child out. So, for example, if you want to go bike riding and you're not sure they're able to do it, ask the child or parent. Usually children are very vocal on what they can and cannot do. If they are unable to do it, you can call around. There are accessible bikes that the child sits in and then you pedal. That's through the Y, right? How's that, the YMCA? So just kind of don't not do the activity. Just try to figure out how you can make it different for them.
Physical disabilities. Physically disabled is a condition that substantially limits one or more basic physical activities in life: walking, climbing stairs, reaching, carrying, or lifting. These limitations hinder the person from performing tasks of daily living. Physical disabilities are highly individualized. The same diagnosis can affect students very differently.
So physical disabilities can be temporary or permanent. For example, if you break your arm, you now have a temporary disability until it is fixed. Permanent might be if you have a car accident and you now have maybe a broken bone that's never going to heal correctly and you might have to use a cane. That would be a more permanent physical disability.
You can be born with a physical disability, or you can acquire it through an accident, injury, illness, or post-surgery effects.
So different examples: amputation, cerebral palsy, congenital abnormalities, club foot, Down syndrome, spina bifida. How to support those with physical disabilities. Assume ability over assumptions. When in doubt, act like you're going to do the activity, and if the child corrects you, then you would try to figure out how to come at it from a different angle. Work with the information given. A lot of times if you do have a disability that might impact the activity or your time with them, parents are pretty good. Oh, no, you're totally fine. Parents are pretty good about giving that information to whoever's working with them and how to best adapt that for them. Allow breaks as needed. If they do have autism, or maybe they have cerebral palsy and they tire easier, try to make sure that you give them breaks if they're overstimulated or if they're just tired and maybe need to sit or rest for a little bit. Practice patience as you would with any child, maybe just slightly more if they have different disabilities. Implement accommodations as needed. Again, try to think of this before you do the activity. It's okay if something comes up and you're like, oh, well, this might be fun mid-activity. But if there is a physical disability, a lot of times you will have to plan ahead of time.
Visual impairments. Visual impairments means that even with corrective devices like glasses or contacts, the person's eyesight still has a deficit. This can be in the form of loss of acuity, where the individual does not see objects as clearly as usual. It can also be in the form of loss of visual field, where they see a narrower field of vision. Most people are blind, still have some usable vision to get around in their environment. Some also have what's called light perception. Only a small percentage of people, around 15%, have total blindness, meaning total dark blindness.
So what we gave you here, all of these would qualify a person to be legally blind. So even though you can still see, well, maybe not the cataracts one. I'm not sure about that one. I think is that cataracts? Yeah.
The cataracts one.
I think the cataracts one would not have you legally blind, but the rest would be considered legally blind.
Yeah, this one's okay. The others, however, no.
How does this to support those with visual impairments?
Ask about their vision so you have an understanding about their capabilities. For example, I'm trying to think of people at the office. We have some people who do just have something in the center, like macular degeneration. Their macula has something in the center that blocks, but they can see from the side, so they might come at things from the side. I'm trying to think, well, some of this stuff also messes with, depth perception or night blindness would be RP. So figuring out what their condition is, Because a lot of times people with RP only have problems at night, so they might be fine during the day. So just trying to figure out what the disability might look like for them.
When you're in a new environment, describe things that they may not see so they can get the whole picture of everything.
And then guide them if needed. Typically, each person has like their preferred method. I would say generally though, you will be leading, they grab onto your elbow. They might also use the cane while you guide them. It just kind of depends on what their comfort level is.
Deaf culture.
Individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing may or may not choose to have corrective devices such as hearing aids and cochlear implants.
They may also choose whether or not to learn ASL.
Deafness is looked at more so as a culture than a disability.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, so people who are born deaf and they don't get the corrective, if you get corrective like a cochlear implant or something to that level, then you're not considered part of the deaf culture. It's just those who are like, I was born with this is just who I am, I'm gonna learn how to do ASL or read lips, whatever's most comfortable for them, and they kind of stay more as a community. So like they have Deaf Fest every year, and if you guys ever want to go and see some of the deaf culture, because they have, they definitely do things different just like any culture would, right? I'm trying to think, they like to talk for long periods of time.
Yes.
That's a cultural habit.
Yes.
But yeah, they just do things differently and they like to.
That's typically if people are born
Yeah.
deaf, like they were born deaf or hard of hearing. We had in the last meeting where someone had said, their mother who was aging ended up using hearing aids and she ended up losing her hearing later in life. She wouldn't be considered part of the deaf culture. She would be considered someone who is hard of hearing as a part of aging. So
people who are born deaf, a lot of times it's a genetic factor that they pass on to their children, hence how the culture kind of keeps going.
And if you're curious, I would suggest to watch our website and Deaf Fest. They have it out at the.
They have it at Headwaters. I don't know if they are this year though because of the construction.
No, they're having it at the fairgrounds, Allen
Okay.
County Fairgrounds, and it is huge. And when I say huge, there's between 3,000 and 5,000 people that come from all of the surrounding states: Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, to come to this Deaf Festival. And you will meet some truly amazing people, and you'll definitely learn the culture.
Is deaf the only one that's considered a culture?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So how to support those who are deaf or hard of hearing? Know the preferred method of communication. Get an interpreter if requested. We worked with a lady who, because we have interpreters on staff at the league, who go out in the community and interpret for people who are deaf or hard of hearing. She was okay one-on-one to not have an interpreter. We could go and have a conversation with her. Once there was a lot of people in the room, then she would need the interpreter. So kind of know what their preference is and be respectful of what they prefer.
And just like any language, there's different dialects. So ASL in the deaf community, there are different dialects. So not all people use the same.
Yeah, not everyone uses ASL. There's other types.
There's other types of ASL.
It's the most commonly accepted form in the US. But
Yes, and then there's also a lot of slang. Like you would hear slang words, and they also like names and things are spelled out. They have their own way of signing people's names or places. So
make sure to face them when you speak so they can see your lips. Even if they have an interpreter, a lot of times the lips do help put all those pieces together. So just make sure. I know with the mask culture, sometimes it's hard, but if you feel comfortable and you're wearing a mask, put it down so they can see.
if they use a corrective device, try to be in an environment where there's little to no background noise. So like cochlear implants or even hearing aids, I mean, I know I talked to my grandma who wears hearing aids and she always has the TV on like 75 and she can't hear a thing that I'm saying. Sometimes I think she turns it off just for that purpose, but every time we go to her house, that's the first thing my dad does is turns her TV off so that she will focus on us there. So,
Okay, so review, be yourself, use age-appropriate, person-first language, think accommodations and accessibility, remember to be respectful and inclusive.
there is no greater disability in society than the inability to see a person as more.
And now we have a game that Jackie's gonna get up because I don't know how to do this.
So now that we've talked about disabilities and we've bored you half to death, I have a game that we're gonna play. One big thing
Are you doing that
about
one first? You don't want to do the actual game? That's just the
oh, we can.
Or do you want to do this first?
We can do the actual one. Yeah, we can do the actual one. You turned it off though. I'll pass these out.
Okay, well,
Here in a minute.
okay, I'm gonna pass out this. Or you don't want
You're gonna pass out.
No, I'm not passing out. I'm passing these out. How's everybody doing? We're not boring you to death, right?
Everything good.
Okay, good.
Well, at least we got the,
Do you want to play too?
I wouldn't say boring, we got the informational stuff out of the way.
All the informational stuff.
You want to have our own spoons on the computer?
Oh, yeah. So I don't know how many people have heard of this. It's called the spoon theory. Has anybody heard of the spoon theory? So when working with anybody, really, when you're working with kids, especially kids with disabilities, self-care is really important. So we wanted to bring that into our disability training because it is important. It is important to rejuvenate and give yourself some time and some patience. And at the end, I'm going to pass this back out to you. But
so the spoon theory is was coined by Christy Miserandino. But she talks about living with a chronic illness. This can be with other disabilities as well. Anything that can have some type of impact on you in a negative way, which is what disability means. So you're going to start with these spoons. This is how many spoons you get for the day, and then we're going to read off the list. And if you've done these things, you got to take the spoons off.
for everything that you've done, it's going to cost you a spoon.
Or a couple, depends on what.
Yep.
So woke up after the first alarm. If you've done that, take a spoon away.
I didn't hear that. What was that?
Did you wake up after
first alarm?
The first time your alarm went off this morning, you woke up.
So I do not lose. You lose 2 spoons.
I was too.
I'm not that good. It took me 4 alarms.
I woke up before the alarm.
So if you did wake up the very first time, you don't take any out, right?
You do. You take 2 out.
If the first time the alarm went off, you take 2 away. Okay. If you brush your teeth this morning, you take a spoon away. Did you get to work on time?
I did.
Yeah, take the spoon away.
I was 15 minutes late.
So was I.
We were working late tonight.
Did you eat breakfast?
I did not. Made it through a meeting.
Did you have a meeting?
We're almost there.
Finally lost another one.
Who read a book today?
The whole book?
Did you take any time to read today?
Yes.
Yeah,
If you took time to read,
No, that's on the wrong side.
I know, but you get a spoon back.
Oh, you're okay. We're doing
Oh,
it.
I get spoon
So
back.
if you read,
Oh.
if you took time to read today, took 10 minutes, 15 minutes to read, you get a spoon back.
Okay. Did you answer all of your work emails? If so, that's 2 spoons.
It's okay. Emails, answered emails.
All your work emails.
2 spoons.
2 spoons.
Did you eat lunch? That's a spoon.
Did you take a nap? If so, you get a spoon back. Did you talk on the phone with a family member? You lose a spoon. Some people that could gain a spoon, to be honest, but.
Did you take your medicine or vitamins?
I forgot.
You take
You took mine.
Right.
No. You took mine.
Really? I'm surprised. You would think I would make you get one.
Did anybody clean their house, wash the dishes, do laundry? Three spoons.
This week? Today?
Today. Any of those. Yep, you lose 3.
Cleaning takes a lot out of you. Did you have a one-on-one with your manager so you lose a spoon?
Did you feed a pet?
Yeah, feed a pet.
1 spoon.
I didn't yet.
Did you exercise so you lose 2 spoons?
Nope, I didn't yet.
Took a shower?
Hey, got that.
2 spoons.
You lose 2? Oh.
Uh-huh.
I only got one.
Wait a minute, you'll get to gain some back.
That way up on.
Did you schedule a doctor's appointment if so you
Yeah.
lost a spoon?
She lost.
You want to start doing that?
Yep. Did you meditate? Did anybody meditate today? Go for a walk?
0.
I prayed.
If you prayed, you get 2 spoons.
We get into that? Get the
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
If you took a walk, you get 2 spoons.
Did you have your favorite snack or drink? If so, you get a spoon back.
Technically, I only got a 0.
See where we're getting at? You started with 15 spoons, and most people will end their day with no spoons or with borrowing from the next day. So then you add a disability on top of that. So you have kids that these are common tasks: waking up, eating breakfast, taking your medicine, walking the dog, doing laundry, doing chores.
Going to bed, you lose 2.
So all of those tasks take extra energy out of you, and a lot of people have to borrow from the next day. So it's just kind of a neat way to put it in perspective.
Lunch?
No, I didn't eat breakfast either.
Did you eat dinner?
That technically does not count this one.
Actually, it does.
Not. If it's your dinner, don't count.
Are you making up your own rules?
Yes.
It kind of seems that way.
Hey.
So it's just kind of a neat activity so that you guys can actually see, and we'll pass out the spoon theory so you can read through it. Because it's kind of something neat to do. I've done it with my kids at home too, because my teenagers don't quite understand what a day entails by the time I get off of work. Like tonight, I'm not gonna get home until 8. And I've got 2 teenagers. They're all gonna be hungry, and somebody's gonna need this, and somebody's gonna wanna go there. I'm exhausted. My spoons are gone. So.
Do they know how to cook?
Yeah, right.
My children learn how to cook.
They do know how to cook.
They just would rather
Big
not.
L word in our house. They're very 80s.
Okay, and then you want to do the game and we'll get more
Yep.
pre-pro.
Yep.
We have a trivia game coming up.
I'm taking your spoons.
If you have one, amazing how much you can keep on if you want to.
Yeah, if you want to keep the spoons in, you're welcome to keep them. Everybody's like, no, I'm not doing that again. It's terrifying. I lost all
learned
my
about these
spoons.
when my daughter got diagnosed with POTS and Hashimoto's.
Yep, it's
Yeah,
huge.
and I didn't know what she was talking about. She had to explain it to me.
Oh, sorry. I don't know how confused. Okay, while she pulls that up, we're gonna do one of the giveaways. Okay,
Go ahead.
if you have ticket 247
Hold on, I gotta get my tickets.
320.
42732.
247 320. 230?
No. Somebody's supposed to have it,
Somebody
right?
has it.
Bingo, game over.
There is 247-319.
I think that's me.
That's what you said.
Oh, she go.
Okay.
The lady who was cleaning up after you.
I'm not finding it.
Here you go.
Oh, wow, I like that. Oh, no, mine.
Okay.
No, mine.
Hold on one.
Oh.
Give me one.
Okay, 247 319.
Ooh.
Hang on.
You tell her your number. That's not fair.
Do you know what it's at? Because it is not coming.
You're welcome.
That's an off.
Pray to the magic of the stone.
Oh, there it is.
And you gotta play back and I just don't want to see all their stuff.
Do what?
You gotta play back and I just need to see.
Oh.
Remember this one's characters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, see on the clip.
I have to hit present though.
Yeah. Okay, this one's on a timer. So let's see how good our skills are.
It is not.
That is.
What's wrong?
Present. Oh, I see.
And then present. Okay, time for a quiz. I think it's on a 10-second interval, so it might get, if you guys are really smart, it might take us a little bit to wait for it.
Was the first time?
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yep.
Okay.
Did we not do the timer? It should be. All right, click it over. That's fine. Okay, which movie came out the same year as the Americans with Disability Act or the ADA? Ghostbusters in 1984, Home Alone in 1990, Sound of Music in 1965, or The Godfather in 1990?
This is yours.
Yes, it sounds.
There's Sound of Music, but.
This is our one we didn't finish.
The one we didn't finish?
Because I think The Godfather was wrong.
Well, see, I figured we cleared both there.
Or maybe we just didn't fix that.
Well,
That one
I
had.
fixed it. So Home Alone is the answer. Anybody answer Home Alone?
Did that surprise you?
I actually
1990?
kind of surprised myself,
1990.
I'm hoping we picked the
Actually,
right
no,
one.
I just thought of that. Home Alone, I just thought of that.
All disabilities are caused by a disease or are inherited.
No. False.
No.
False. 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 Definitely false.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're welcome. Okay, what was the first book released at the same time in Braille as it was in print? Was it Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, A Wrinkle in Time, Charlotte's Web, or Little Woman?
That one, I don't know.
Any guesses?
Harry Snotter.
Little woman.
Love the guesses.
Oh, you saw
How you doing, Harry Snotter?
It's Harry Potter.
Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince.
You call it what you want, I'll call it what I want.
People with mobility impairments do not care about how they look, and they can't shop the way other people do. True or false?
False. Definitely.
No more. Who did get candy?
My stepkids really love it.
I don't need it.
You should avoid using expressions such as look, see, and watch out when talking to someone with a visual impairment.
False.
Yeah. I'm gonna go to who I heard first.
It's false.
Yeah.
Which film featuring characters with disabilities recently became the highest grossing animated film in North America? The Lorax, Inside Out, Incredibles, or Finding Dory?
Finding Dory.
Yes.
Someone who uses a power wheelchair cannot drive a motor vehicle.
No. False. Come on, falsy.
False.
Falsy teeth. Falsy teeth. You're gonna have to go everywhere now.
A person who is deaf cannot use the phone.
Falsy. False.
Okay, I don't do that one. That was you first.
Yeah, she's like, I give up.
Which popular Chicago musician recently decided to bring ASL interpreters on tour so deaf and hard of hearing fans could better enjoy the show? You got Buddy Guy, Styx, Chance the Rapper, and Jason Derulo.
I only know who one of those
Chance.
bands is.
It's from my town.
Yeah.
I don't know who it is. So,
It's Chance the Rapper.
that's my brother. Then that'd be his thing.
You can hear Buddy Guy all over the Chicago Blues Festival, you know.
Yes, you
can.
It's not clicking.
And we have
Technical difficulties,
Patience,
everybody.
Jackie. Patience.
They don't have.
Oh, that's it.
That was it.
I do have a quiz question for you.
What's the quiz question?
How many spoons do you still have?
I have no idea. I didn't count.
Hey, missed one.
So do you guys have questions for us? This is the time that we want to open up the floor to you guys for questions for us.
Can I have a gift card?
No questions for us? Nothing at all. So if you are working with a little and you do suspect that they may have some sort of disability going on, what are you to do?
Tell the case manager.
Very good. Yeah, we don't diagnose. None of us are professionals, so it's not our job to
know
diagnose.
that, I guess, but
But
most likely.
But
none of
there
us have
are things
training.
that you can do. There are things that you can do without a diagnosis. If you suspect a child either is, hyperactive or may not, may have some sensory issues or, maybe dealing with some adverse trauma.
Okay.
There are things that you can do to support that child. Without having an official diagnosis of ADHD or autism or anything like that. So, and we kind of gave you some of those steps. And on the league pamphlet that you got, our phone number is on the back, so is our email. And if you guys ever have any questions or concerns or need guidance in any way for activities or adaptive equipment, anything like that, you can always reach out to us. And thank you. Mariah just passed out the post survey. If you guys could take your time to fill that out and put your initials in the upper right hand corner for us, we would greatly appreciate it. And I'm glad you guys came out tonight.
Yes, thank you.